9 million empty houses in Japan. 50 villages in Italy selling stone cottages for €1. A Greek island that will pay you $500 a month to move there. So why does almost nobody actually go? I looked at every one of these programs this week, the council pages and the actual written rules, not the headlines. And the answer is not what you think. The houses are real. Nearly all of them are real. What is not real is your right to live in them. And almost every one of these schemes carries a rule about how old you are that nobody reading these lists out loud ever mentions. My name is Hank Ross. I am 70, and I live off the grid at the end of a road the plow does not come down. I got here by reading small print until my eyes watered, and that is the entire skill this video is about. So here is the list right now, before anything else. Italy, Japan, Spain, Greece, Croatia. Those 5 are real and running as I speak. And I am going to take 2 more off the table for you before we are done, because one of them is the finish that every version of this video saves for last, and it has not existed since the summer of 2022. Before I get into it, tell me in the comments where you are watching from tonight. Just the state is fine. I want to see how far this thing has traveled because the map in my head is out of date. Italy first because it is the one you have already heard about, the €1 house. It started in a Sicilian town back in 2008, and it spread to something like 50 villages across Sicily, Sardinia, Tuscany, Calabria, and Abruzzo. You pay €1. You own a centuries-old stone house with a terracotta roof and a view down a valley. Here is the part that is true and the part that is not. You do pay €1. You also put down a deposit of roughly 3,000 to 5,000 euros, and you sign a commitment to fully renovate the place inside 3 years. That renovation runs between 20,000 and 100,000 euros depending on the house, and in a lot of those towns you are expected to use local tradesmen at local rates, which means you have very little leverage on the quote. A man underneath the video I am remaking today put it better than I could. He said there is no such thing as a free lunch, and that the $1 townhouse in Sicily is really a $100,000 renovation wearing a $1 hat. He is right. And one more thing, from a woman in that same comment section, and it is the detail that made me sit up. Some of those Italian houses have no running water. None. You are buying a shell on a hillside and arranging water deliveries while you rebuild it. I have hauled water through a winter. I know exactly what she is describing, and it is not charming. Now Japan, and this is where the numbers genuinely are as wild as they sound. Japan has roughly 9 million empty houses. They call them Akiya. That is close to 1 home in 7 across the entire country sitting dark. Some towns list them at €0, and unlike almost everywhere else on this list, there is no nationality restriction on buying one. You do not need to be a citizen. An American can buy a Japanese farmhouse from a kitchen table in Ohio. So what is the catch? There are 3, and they are all recent. First, the money. A house priced at 0 is not a house that costs 0. For a foreign buyer who does not live in Japan, the realistic all-in acquisition cost lands somewhere between 3 and 5 million yen once you count the agent, the registration, the judicial scrivener, the survey, and the taxes. Call it $20,000 to $30,000 before you have touched a single wall. The renovation itself commonly runs 5 to 15 million yen on top of that. Second, the tax rule changed, and this is new enough that most of these videos have not caught up. Since the end of 2023, a vacant house that Japan considers poorly managed can lose its residential land tax break, and when that happens, the fixed asset tax on it can climb by as much as 6 times. So the house that was free becomes a house that bills you every year for the privilege of standing there falling down. A man in the comments said flatly that in Japan these free houses come with tax liabilities. He was not exaggerating. Third, and this is the one that matters most and gets the least airtime, owning a house in Japan gives you no right whatsoever to live in Japan. None. Property and residency are 2 completely separate questions there, and buying the farmhouse does not get you a visa, a residence card, or a single extra day in the country. You are also required as an overseas owner to appoint a Japanese tax representative and register a contact address inside Japan and to deal with official mail in Japanese. So is Japan off the table? No, it is the most open door on this list. Just understand you are buying a holiday house you can visit, not a country you can move to. Spain next, and Spain is the one I would look at hardest. They have a phrase for the problem: España vaciada, emptied Spain. Something like 42% of Spanish municipalities are losing people. They have close to 5,000 settlements with under 1,000 souls left in them. So the villages are bidding for you. Panga, up in the northern mountains, offers couples €3,000 to move in and another 3,000 for a child born there. Grigos gives you 3 months rent-free and then charges about €225 a month. Agesta in Galicia has fewer than 100 residents and about 125 empty houses, with rent starting near €100 a month. Huh. Not a room, a house. Um, Almadrones, an hour from Madrid, had a private firm offering salaried work at 1,100 to €1,600 a month, with somewhere to live and your meals thrown in on top. Here is the thing nobody says out loud about Spain. The National Housing Grant, the €11,000 one, is for buyers under 35. The village schemes are aimed overwhelmingly at young families and working-age couples, because the entire point of the exercise is to reopen a school. If you are 68 and retired, you are not the customer they are advertising for. You can still buy there, and you should look, but you will be buying at the ordinary price like anybody else, while the headline number goes to somebody a third of your age. If any of this is useful to you, subscribe. I put one of these out every couple of days, and all I do here is take the videos that make it look easy and read you the next line. Now, how long does any of this actually take? Because that is the question underneath all of it, and here is the answer nobody gives you. The single most liked comment under the video I am remaking is one sentence long. It says these free house programs have 3-year waiting lists. 3 years. And that is the optimistic version because it assumes you are eligible at the end of it. Every one of these schemes runs on an application, a committee, a translation, and a queue, and the queue is full of people who are younger than you and who already live in the country. I am not saying do not apply. I am saying that if you are 70 and the plan is that the house comes through before you need a hip replacement, that is not a plan, that is a raffle ticket. There is a second comment under there worth your time as well. Somebody wrote flatly that some of the information in the video is fake. 10 people agreed with him and nobody answered. He was not being rude, he was being accurate, and I am about to show you exactly which part he meant. Greece, and this is the offer that sounds too good to be true. Antikythera. 8 square miles of rock between Crete and the Peloponnese, 24 permanent residents, wild goats outnumbering people. The church and the local council will give a new family a house, a plot of land, food, and €500 a month for 3 years. That is €18,000 to go and live on a Greek island. All of that is real. Now here is the shape of it that the list version leaves out. They are selecting a handful of families, and they are selecting for children, because the whole exercise is about a school that had closed and has only just reopened. Several of the announcements were explicit about wanting families with 3 or more children. Skilled trades come next. Bakers, fishermen, builders, farmers. And the island itself is genuinely remote. The way in is a ferry from Kythera or from Kissamos on Crete, and when the wind gets up the boat does not run. One small shop, no hospital. If something goes wrong with your heart at 2 in the morning in February, you are waiting on the weather. So Antikythera is a real offer and a beautiful one, and for a retired American on a fixed income, it is almost certainly closed. I would rather tell you that tonight than have you write a letter and wait 4 months for a polite no. Croatia, and this one had me put my coffee down. Why? Because the price is exactly as advertised and the rules underneath it are a wall. The town of Legrad, up on the Drava River near the Hungarian border, has been selling houses for 1 kuna, which converted to about 13 cents, and they kept the symbolic price after the country moved to the euro, 13 cents for a house. They stack renovation grants on top that can run into several thousand. Now read the eligibility with me because this is the cleanest example of the thing I have been circling all the way through. To buy one of those houses, you must be under 45 years old. You must be in a marriage or a registered partnership. You must have no criminal record. And you must not already own property. Under 45, married or partnered, owning nothing. So if you are watching this at 62, with a paid-off place in Ohio you are planning to sell in order to fund the move, you have just failed 3 of the 4 conditions on a house that was sold to you as costing 13 cents. That is not the town being cruel. Legrad is trying to fill a school and keep a clinic staffed, and a 70-year-old with a pension does not do that for them. But somebody should have said it before you got your hopes up, and nobody did. Now the correction, and this is the one I would want somebody to tell me. Almost every version of this list ends on Scotland. £50,000, about $65,000, paid to your household simply for moving to a Scottish island. The island's bond, it is the big finish, the jaw-dropper, the one they save for last. It was scrapped. In August of 2022, the Scottish government announced the island's bond would not go ahead, after a consultation came back and the islanders themselves said it was the wrong answer. Roughly 1,600 people responded, and the ones in favor were mostly people who did not live on the islands. Islanders called it a short-term fix. One member of parliament called it an election gimmick. No bond was ever paid to anybody. That was 4 years ago. It is still in these videos. It was in the video I am remaking today, in the present tense, sold as the best thing on the list. Somebody in that comment section flagged it, got a dozen likes, and got no reply. So if you have been carrying that number around in your head as the plan, take it out and put it down. It is not delayed. It is not a waiting list. It does not exist. I will give you one more that comes up constantly and deserves a straight answer. Pitcairn. 2,000 commoners from Tahiti, under 50 residents, most of them descended from the men who took the bounty. They will deed you free land after a probationary period, and there is a build loan scheme. All genuine. About 700 people a year ask Pitcairn about moving there. Almost nobody completes it. Somebody in that comment section asked the sharp question, which was, what exactly do they need people for? And on an island of 50, the answer really matters. Before you write to them, read the island's own court record from the early 2000s. I am not going to go through it here. I am saying that researching a place with 50 people in it is a different job from researching a county, and you do it before you sell your house, not after. If you have only just found this, I am Hank, and this channel is about the part these videos leave out. So here is what I want to ask you, and I want the honest answer rather than the brave one. It is the 4th month. You are in the village. The house is yours, and it is beautiful, and it is also a building site. You are about 40,000 deeper in than you meant to be. Your Italian is good enough to buy bread and nowhere near good enough to argue with the water company, and this morning the water company sent a letter you cannot read. Your daughter has rung twice this week asking when you are coming home. Do you push on through the winter, or do you fly back and put it on the market? Be honest, because most of us picture ourselves pushing on, and a fair number of us fly back. I have folded on things I swore I would finish more than once, and the years I folded taught me more than the years I did not. If you have already lived that 4th month somewhere, tell the rest of us what actually broke you, because that is the useful part and nobody ever writes it down. Now let me give you the version of this that works, because there is one. Of everything on this list, exactly 2 are genuinely open to a 65-year-old American with some cash and no intention of having any more children. Japan, because there is no age gate and no nationality gate on buying. As long as you understand that you are buying a second home rather than a life, and that you are budgeting $30,000 rather than nothing. And Italy, because the money there is renovation money rather than a youth grant, and several of the northern schemes will take an older buyer who commits to actually living in the house. If you go at either of those, do it in this order. Go and rent in the region for 1 full winter before you buy anything. Not August. February, when the shutters are closed and the one restaurant shuts at 8 and you find out whether the silence is peace or whether it is just silence. Then get a surveyor who does not work for the seller and get the renovation quoted by somebody with no relatives on the council. Those 2 steps cost you a few thousand, and they are the difference between the story where it worked and the story where it did not. Everything else here is a recruitment advertisement aimed at somebody young enough to be your child. That is not dishonest of them. It is just not aimed at you, and the videos never say so. And here is the last thing, which is the thing I actually believe. The reason a village gives a house away is that everybody who could leave already left. That is the same reason land runs 2,000 an acre in the Ozarks, and the same reason there are parcels sitting on county repository lists in West Virginia and Western Pennsylvania for less than the cost of the flight to Sicily. The free house abroad and the cheap acre at home are the same transaction, only one of them lets you keep your doctor, your pension, and your language. So the honest answer to the question I opened with is yes. There are houses for nothing, and starting over is real, and I am not here to talk you out of it. But the price of the house was never the price of the move, and nearly every one of these programs was written for somebody 30 years younger than the person watching this. I am Hank, and I would rather you heard that from me tonight than from a committee in 18 months. Tell me which of the 5 you were looking at before you clicked on this, and whether any of that changed it, because the real numbers in the comments on this channel are consistently better than the numbers in anybody's video, mine included. Next one, I am going through the states selling off-grid land so cheap it feels illegal, and I will tell you which of those counties will actually let you live on what you just bought.